we've got a Patreon page, so if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you. Hello. This is the Union Tapes, episode number 31. And this one is with John Povah. Many of you will have heard the name John Povah through the years. He had a huge part behind the scenes in some of the bigger companies like Schwinn, and then later on Etnies Footwear. In this episode we tap into all of that stuff and go right back to the start of the BMX boom, where he discovered Hillingdon Racetrack and later on Harrow Skatepark, and that led him to other BMX connections and the wider BMX world in the UK. He rode for Raleigh bikes and did demos alongside Andy Ruffle in the mid-80s. Rode the BFA circuit, Meanwhile Quarter Pipes, Chingford Ramp, and the many a legendary London area spot. And then later on he moved to Southern California and started out a whole new BMX adventure with the guys from SoCal and some of the guys from S&M. We talk about early street riding, filming for Dirty Deeds, and everything up to present day. Get it down, yeah. I'm good to go if you are.
Yeah, go for it. If there's any background noise, I apologise, because we have in my complex, there's these fucking gardeners come through every Tuesday, and they're loud as shit. Hopefully you can hear
no
me
worries,
okay,
yeah.
but...
We'll just work through it. The sound's really good, cool. Actually, so yeah, we should be good. All right, just give us the usual, like, brief bit of background about, like, where you was born and raised and your early life and stuff like that.
Born in Croydon, central London. Grew up in Wembley. My dad worked for Esso, the oil company, or Exxon in America, and we moved around a lot. So we moved to Slough and then ended up in Uxbridge, where I kind of started riding bikes. That's pretty much it. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that you bounced around on other stuff that I've listened to, and when we talked to you before. So
yeah,
you're just like pinging around the sort of London area, yeah? And this was in the 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I mean, 70s and then into the 80s. Yeah, I mean, just because of my old man, we would move around. I moved schools a lot, which was kind of frustrating, and it was hard for me to do well at school. But when we got to Uxbridge, it was pretty stable.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Just because of my old man, like, he would just move around. Yeah.
Where did you like first get your first bike? Was you in Uxbridge or Wembley or?
Yeah, I mean, even before BMX, I always rode bikes that, you know, I was always jumping and doing wheelies, and we always put planks up on bricks and we'd jump in paving slabs. But my first bike was in Uxbridge. Like, my neighbor kid, my neighbor kid Jason, he always kind of got the newest stuff, the newest, like, back then, like, whatever would be considered a video game, or the newest toys or whatever. And, like, this was like late 70s. But that was my first introduction in an actual BMX. He had like a magazine or a newspaper article or something, and he got a bike. And I always had bikes that were just pieces of shit. Like, I never had a brand new bike ever. And then he got BMX, and I was always jumping and doing better than those guys were. And I'd borrow his bike and jump. Like, he would jump like 3 paving slabs, I'd do 4 or 5 or whatever. It was just, you know, I was always in a, like, daredevil shit. Obviously, Evel Knievel was kind of an influence on a lot of bike riders in the 70s. But that, you know, that's essentially where it came from. And as soon as I saw him have a BMX, I thought, oh, this is actually something. These bikes are actually built for this. So then I started bugging my mum to get me a bike. My first bike was secondhand, of course, because couldn't afford nothing. But it was a 78 Super Goose, but I got it in 79.
Okay.
I had that. Yeah.
That's the year you got it, 79.
Yeah. like a nickel-plated Super Goose. I didn't know anything about any, I didn't know what was good or bad or whatever, but that was my first bike. But then I bugged my mum for a new bike, and she went behind my dad's back, and we went in Uxbridge, and there was this shop called Spokes, checking out all these bikes. Everything was shiny and new. The bike shop smell. Yeah. I love that smell, even to this day. But so I'm not sure what year it was. I think it was 81 or 82, maybe. Again, I'm terrible with dates, but I picked out a Pro Star, which was like I don't know if they're in the States, but it was a European kind of Diamondback, cheaper brand. But unknowingly, I bought a complete bike that was worse than the bike I had, because the Super Goose was much better. Yeah. I didn't know. I didn't know. I just rode a bike.
Yeah, of course.
That was it. And but then I think I passed my Super Goose onto a friend. When you're young, you're always trading parts out, and So my first brand new bike was a Pro Star.
Oh, amazing! I remember them. Yeah, they were quite short, and they basically, like you say, they look like Diamondbacks, but low end ones. Yeah,
real short, and they were I think they were tri-moly or mild. They might not have been chrome moly. I don't know. They might have been just completely fucking mild steel. I don't know. But I remember breaking.
I think they were just steel. Oh, you broke it, yeah? Where did it break? The frame?
Yeah. At the gusset, I remember seeing from the corners of the star, because the gusset, instead of a diamond star, like a Diamondback, it had the star, and the cracks would wander out from there, and it broke to the edge of the gusset, and once it got to the end of the gusset, the top two broke.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit. How long was that it took you to break that bike?
Probably, I don't know, probably a handful of months, 4 months, 5 months.
Oh, fast.
The funny story about that bike, the funny story about that was my mom told me to go down to the shop and pick it out, and I brought it. I couldn't wait to get out of school that day. I got on the bus and went to Uxbridge and picked the bike up and pedaled home. What I didn't know is she hadn't told my dad about it, so I had to hide it in the garage for 3 days, and he found it in the garage behind the car, because he had this car that he was restoring.
All right.
And it barely went in there, because the parts car was in the garage, and then the car that he was driving was the one, his daily driver or whatever. And once he found out, he got pretty mad at my mom. But
oh yeah,
I mean, who would have known that? Who would have known that years? I would have stuck with it.
Yeah.
It's actually something I enjoy. Well, I mean, my mum was always supportive.
Oh, cool, man. What was there? Went to that bike shop. Was there other BMXs in there as well as the Pro Stars?
Yeah. I mean, it was just a normal bike shop, but it was most bikes back in the day. There was a BMX section. And they probably had a selection of 5 or 6 bikes, of different price ranges and different quality levels. But I remember it kind of it was kind of the beginning of kind of BMX kicking off in the UK, even though I got a bike a couple of years before, it was still kind of not taken root yet. And then it was, as when I got the Pro Star, I remember there was a lot more interest, and I saw more kids coming to school, pedaling to school and putting their bikes in the bike rack with BMXs, rather than just, shitty 10 speeds or with cow horns and, so
it was
gradually
days,
picking up. And I mean, it wasn't quite boom days yet, but it was kind of definitely on the rise.
Well, what would you consider boom days? 82, 83, 84?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say 83 and 84 and 85, yeah.
Okay, 85, interesting. All right. So what happened
for me? I mean, again, I'm shit with dates, but
so if you for me, you can so pre-ET is it's still creeping up, and then after ET it was an explosion. That's how I remember it. That's what it kind of looks like.
Agreed.
Through research,
agreed. Yeah.
And what? So what happened?
Year, what year was Rad?
Brad.
What year was Rad? Yeah, what year was Rad? 84?
86, I think. Over here, there was a feature in Action Bike in 86, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's all right, later than I thought then.
Yeah.
It was definitely
Remember the cover?
ET had a massive influence, yeah.
The backflip cover was 86 of Action Bike.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. With Jose Yanez, yeah.
That's it, yeah. And then, so what did you do? Did you take the bike back and say, "Oh, this thing's broke"? Like,
no, just I mean, I think I went through it. No, I didn't know. I didn't know any better. You know, I know my mum got mad at me about it. Yeah, but I think we just, you know, you would get another frame and put all the parts on it, and yeah, I don't remember the sequence of what frames and that I had. Maybe I got a secondhand bike. I don't remember. Or a secondhand frame. All right. I always remember I never had the best part. I never had the best parts on my bike. I never had the best shit.
Yeah.
It was always hand-me-down stuff and secondhand stuff that I traded with friends.
Make do. Yeah, that's kind of like what everyone was like, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Unless she was one of the privileged kids back in the day.
It was hard. And like coming across a bike shop with all the good stuff was few and far between in the early days too, you know.
Yeah, totally. And was that was just the one shop that you guys knew about was Spokes, or did you like ventured out to some other stores and that at that point?
The Spokes. Once we got riding, we found out about a shop in Usley called Hef's bike shop. It was owned by like this road bike guy. He was actually like a Tour de France guy, but he opened this shop in Usley right by the train station, across the street from the train station. And he had like a BMX section, and we made good friends with him. And there was a couple of guys in Usley used to ride, Lee Shuri and there was two brothers I remember. I can't remember their names, but Facebook, I reconnected with him recently, but he was really supportive and he would give us deals on shit.
Oh, cool, man.
He used to hook it up. I mean, I would consider that kind of like first sponsor, I guess. I don't know. Like he just helped out with discounting stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And what was it? Did he sell like higher end stuff in that shop?
Yeah, like I remember going in there and just he had like, you know, he had DX and like flight cranks and you know, I remember Tange forks back in the day. I remember buying a pair of Tange forks from him.
All right.
Yeah, but he had the good quality shit. Yeah.
Okay. And what can you remember like the first magazine you saw, like other than the one that your friends showed you when like early before you had a bike? Like when did you start seeing magazines on the regular?
Man, I think again the kid next door, my friend Jason. I think he was getting magazines, and he's I got it from the news shop or whatever. So I actually think that my mum used to work at the news agents, and I remember convincing her to try and get a subscription to one of the magazines so they could carry it in the newsstand. And I can't. I mean, I honestly don't remember what. It might have been BMX Action or early. I don't know. Early Action Bike. I can't remember.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I do know.
Remember.
I do remember. Like once magazines kind of came into my life, I could, you know, it kind of opened a door to more experiences in BMX where you knew there was more than just your local scene or just your friends. You know, there was more people doing this thing.
Yeah. Okay. Was there a local racetrack at this point where you was? Hillenden
Hawks. They still exist today, which is pretty cool. I mean, we built, because where I used to live, we used to have like this green belt out the back of our house, and there was these kind of valleys because it used to be a train track used to run through there. So there was a dip, then a higher level, then a dip again, and we used to build like fly outs out of the ditch or dip or whatever it is.
All right.
So that was kind of the first thing, but then So we had that, and then kids would come over and like ride our jump. You know, our jumps that we had, a jump, I guess. Like it's just a fly out, right?
Yeah.
But so once people found it, because it was so few and far between, so other kids would come over and ride, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, there's this track about 3 miles from here. You know, we can pedal over there." And once I found out about the Hillenden track, it was kind of game on because you're around a lot of like-minded people.
All right. So that was the first real scene, yeah. Yeah. It was Once again, it's just connecting the dots. You have something. If you create a bit of a scene, then they come and ride your shit. You go and ride their stuff, and then they introduce you to we used to once I found out about the Hillenden track, we found out about pinner, pinner jumps. There was a couple of jumps at the time. But I mean, pinner was a place we used to go to quite often, especially in the summertime. It was a good spot. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's crazy.
It's crazy that they're kind of still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know if it's still there, of course, because I live over here. But it was rad seeing that place pop up and actually become something in a bigger scene.
Yeah, that all happened in the 90s. That was kind of pretty much disused for many years up until mid 90s, really, when jumping sort of made a bit of a comeback. So yeah, that's crazy. They used to go there.
In the winter in the winter it was flood, so we couldn't ride there in the winter. And then once the summer came, the water went down, and there was a whole kind of track around the top of this big pool. And there was this one hit that we used to hit that was super fun, and it was fun there.
Yeah, the left-hand hip off of the sort of roots, wasn't it? There was I remember it. Grot Bags, you filled me in on that stuff when we used to go there all the time. Yeah, he's like, this was the original jump. Yeah.
That place it was fun. It was a good scene.
And how far? That was probably 4 or 5 miles or something from you guys, right? Uxbridge.
Yeah, because I lived in Cowley, which is just outside.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Do you know Brunel University? I used to live right by Brunel.
Yeah.
That was our what we consider a street spot, I guess. But we would ride there and get kicked out of there all the time. That was pretty fun. And then So, but the pinner was Hillenden track was probably 2 or 3 miles from me, and then pinner was probably 4 miles, 5 miles.
All right. And what was? I guess Harrow would have been the first skate park you went to, or was it wrong?
No, Harrow was the first real skate park. When I got to go there, that was an eye opener, and in the summertime you couldn't keep me away.
Yeah. What year did you discover that?
First, man, I think, and I could be wrong, but early 1980, 1981 maybe. Yeah, really early. They'd already knocked in the wall on the top of the performance bowl.
Okay.
And then later on they started filling shit in, which sucked. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of it that was filled in when we were there. We would always go there in the summertime. We'd spend in the summer we'd spend a couple of days trying to dig out the pool or the peanut, and then you'd come back and it was filled back in. But that was later. That was a bit later on.
All right. Can you remember other guys? Was there a skate scene still at Harrow when you first started going?
Yeah. I mean, it was. I think skating was kind of phasing out a little bit, and BMX was kind of coming in, but it wasn't as busy earlier on in the 80s, and then it got more busy in the 83-ish, 82-ish, 83, 84 kind of. It got busier then, but early on it was kind of quiet. There was nothing really going on. I think that's why they filled a lot of shit in. I don't know.
All right. And was there other how many other local sort of BMXers were there in the early days? Not many at all then.
No, it was. We'd always phone each other. There's probably just a handful of the same guys. I can't remember anybody. I can't. But it was always a handful of the same guys. You give a call. You going to Harrow this week, or are you going to go to, where are we going this weekend, kind of thing. And then you just trust people would show up.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I remember like summertime. Like I remember riding there in the summertime. You'd ride so much, and obviously your diet was shit. It was you drinking Coke and eating crisps, but you'd ride all day, and you would be cramped up by the end of the day. You'd come home and you'd like try and pull your hand off your grip, and it would just form back into the shape of a grip because you rode so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Cramping your teens. That's pretty good going, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you? Did you go to that Harrow? Did you go to that thing?
No, for whatever reason, I missed that day. I don't know what was going on, but somehow I missed that. Yeah.
Wow.
I wish,
Yeah.
It's pretty funny that each went there recently as well with Blyther and those guys. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, man. And like, what? So at this point, the people are not riding quarter pipes. The quarter pipes is a thing a year or so after you're riding Harrow for the first year or so.
Yeah, I mean, we had a quarter pipe quite early on in Uxbridge.
Okay.
Again, I don't remember what year it was. It was a piece of shit, but I don't know where we got it from. I don't know who built it, but we had.
Oh, you didn't build it?
No, I think we. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where we got it from, but it had no deck on it, and it was just it was like kind of the bottom was the same as the top, like it was where it would blend into the ground. That was how the top was. There was no deck or nothing, so we just shoved it up against a tree with some like kickers on it. Yeah.
Oh no way! I didn't know.
I think it was built like
built that quarter pipe.
And it was built like I think it was built like how the Bob Harrow designs how you build a quarter pipe rather than a template on the side. It was terrible, like 50p.
Free kinks. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So that wasn't the one that was in Action Bike for that test then, no?
No, that was one of the kids who lived right next to the little Greenbelt area. His dad helped us build that one, and it was a much better one. It was wide because the first one we had was only like 5 feet wide. This one was an 8 foot wide ramp, and it was built in the same way, the same kind of frame, but it was much smoother, and maybe just because it was new, but it was much better, and it had a deck on it and everything.
All right. And what was this like? Had you been to like BMX events at this point in time? Like, had you been to a race or a comp or anything?
No.
Too early,
racing. Yeah? I mean, I raced for a while. Well, I raced for a while. I never went to any contests or anything that I can remember. That wasn't until later on, but so it was just being around your friends. You end up racing because you're with like. At the time, I didn't know how good these guys were, but we just rode together because we would go to the track and we would jump some berms and. We had like a little lip jump on the side of the start hill where we would jump tires and stuff like that. But racing was probably my first competitive thing. I raced novice for a long time. Yeah.
And then, so this now we're kind of in the boom time, right?
Yeah, it's getting way bigger
and stuff like. Yeah. Can you remember like the perception of just Joe Public for the BMX, like what people saw it as?
Well, I know at school I got a lot of shit and I was picked on a lot, and I was always kind of shy as a kid, so I kind of just took it. But I liked what I was doing so much. My only connection to it was pretty much just everyone I was around at school, Maybe there was one other kid who rode bikes or two other kids that rode bikes at school, but Yeah, I think just at that time, people thought it was this craze. Like, they thought skateboarding was a craze. They thought like any of the other like weird, quirky, hula hoops or whatever. It's going to come and go, and it's going to be over and done with, right? Like that's what they think.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
I don't remember anybody. I remember kids at school. Kids are pretty brutal. So I remember kids at school giving me shit, but other than that, I don't remember. I think my dad kind of thought I'd get over it pretty quick, but I stuck with it,
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I'm not sure if he really. I'm not sure if he approved, but I think when I started doing okay a little bit later on, he was quietly kind of proud, whether he would say it or not.
Okay. Nice.
Dads are. Dads are.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, mine was the same. Yeah, they were just like wasting your time fiddling about on a bike. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, yeah.
Exactly. But my mom was super supportive. She was always, as long as I was happy, that's all she gave a shit about.
Cool. London.
It beats
the UK.
It beats Dawson around. It beats Dawson around, right? Like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is really what was going on back then. Was just dossing around or going to football matches and dossing around, wasn't it? Like that was your alternative. That I remember.
Yep.
Pretty bleak. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So how's the sort of riding developing? You got like another quarter, which I mean, obviously you've learned to air at Harrow, I would assume, right? Like that's where you've learned
a little
to
bit,
ride,
yeah. Like out of the half pipe, it was. Yeah. I mean, I was more into jumping, really.
Okay.
I think maybe because we just rode everything, right? Like, it wasn't really early on. It wasn't categorized. You just rode your bike, and if I was at Brunel, there was stairs to jump down, and there was like handicap ramps that are there that you can jump out of and do like kick turns and shit on. And then if you're at the BMX track, you're jumping, and if there was a skate park, then you're jumping hips and stuff. So it was just a mixture of everything. But I mean, the first real vertical surfaces were Harrow in the half pipe there, but barely, getting to the top kind of thing. And then once we got the quarter pipe, I could actually take the time to, we would. I remember riding it, and like there was like screws in the wood, and I would I'm going to go for that screw this time and get a little bit higher, and at some point you're kicking the back end out and it's getting out the top, and your friends are kind of like, you got out, and you're like, and then you can start pushing it a little bit, and then once you figure out the technique, because I mean there was nothing to follow, it was all trial and error. It was not. There was no guidebook. We were all like we saw a photo in the magazine, and you had to kind of figure it out, right? Like you figure out how they do this shit,
right,
with flatland moves or
yeah, totally. And there was no one who was even advanced enough to tell you, if you lean in a bit or try and turn, put a bit more weight over here or weight over there, like this will happen.
Exactly.
Like it was completely like go up there and do a 180 and just try and do it faster, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
and then
who knew about pump? Who knew about pumping? Like,
no,
I didn't know.
Pumping didn't exist for years. Like,
yeah. It was. You should use your speed.
Yeah, hit the ramp like a bit of cardboard,
pedal faster,
and then turn around at the top. Yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So like you've learned to like air this quarter, and then you get the next quarter, which was way better. I've seen the picture in the mag of Craig, I think it was, right? That was shot on that Uxbridge quarter. Yeah. And that one obviously that became the one that you guys kind of mastered doing airs, so to speak, because that looked that looked like the Skyway ramp. That's what I thought it was for years. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I was always better on that ramp than anywhere else. Like, even though I didn't really go that high, but I was always better because I was super comfortable on it. I would always get like go somewhere, like later on we would go to contests or whatever, and all the ramps to me were always just too skinny and shit or whatever. But back to the Uxbridge thing. Like, funny thing was when those photos of Craig riding it. Neil was there that day as well, but for whatever reason I wasn't there. Like I remember my mom said, "Oh yeah, these two guys come to the door." They came to the door. They knocked on the door. Said, "Is John home?" And I'm like, and she's like, "Nope, he's somewhere else, whatever it was." And so I never got to see them ride there, which kind of sucked. But
yeah, that does suck.
Yeah, it was a bummer because I was, and like I'd met those guys early on, but I wasn't close with them yet, you know.
All right. Where had you met them before?
Yeah. I think a demo somewhere. Like,
all right.
And like I got introduced to them. Yeah. Yeah. Because my memory's shit, but I think somehow Sam Wood was in the mix. Darren Wood's dad.
Yeah.
I got somehow introduced to them, and so they'd like heard that I could ride a little bit, so they wanted to come over and ride the quarter pipe, and for whatever reason I wasn't there that day.
All right. Did you go to the King of the Skate Parks at Rom that was in '84, the same year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't go. I didn't go a lot. I didn't go to a lot of stuff. For whatever reason, maybe because I didn't hear about it, or I was around a lot more races at that time than I was like anyone like freestylers.
All right, interesting. And what was the pattern of that quarter pipe? When did that like disappear? How high could you go on that then?
I mean, probably 8 or 9.
Oh wow! So
yeah, I mean it was. I mean, for the time, yeah. But it was like and it was like pedal your balls off at it. I was so used to the ramp. I was comfortable on it. But then anywhere else after that, I would always struggle. But I don't know what. I'm not sure what year it went away. I remember there was stories of them in that green belt. They were going to start building houses. So at some point, it either got torn down, or we had to take it down, or we gave it away. I don't remember.
All right. And who else used to ride there? Anyone else?
Not that you'd probably remember, but there was a guy I used to ride with. He was really good, really smooth, man. Like if he kept riding, his name was Tony Nicholson. I remember him. He was just silky smooth. Like I always remember enjoying riding with him because he was a big influence. There's a guy. This is a pretty funny story. When I started working for Etnies, a guy introduced himself to me. This guy, and I recognized the face. I was like, but I can't remember the name. He's like, I used to ride with you in the quarter pipe in Uxbridge. And this guy's name's Yogi, and he's like really big in the skateboard industry now.
I know Yogi. Yeah.
He's an artist. Yeah. He's an artist, and I never knew, but I'd grown up riding with him, and because he used to ride BMX.
No way.
But it was funny.
I think a lot of those guys did,
right? Like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From that little tiny area as well.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure. Like again, like I forgot that I rode with Yogi, but there's probably a couple of dozen others. Same scenario. You cross paths with them, you can't remember. You know.
Yeah, that was when skating kind of came about, and a lot of the people that was riding BMX and feeling like that it was pretty lame kind of moved on to skating because it was kind of perfect for some people. So yeah. I
mean it was it was a little kooky back then, but I think BMX had to go through that evolution, same as skating. Totally. I mean, skating did the same thing. It was
it did the same. It
was like pretty you have to go through these evolutions to kind of find yourself.
You've got to earn it, haven't you? Otherwise, it's not gonna find itself if you don't go through that adversity. That's what I think. Like it has to.
I agree.
Find its path.
I agree.
And it did seem to be terrible when you were like 13 or 14. It just looked the worst thing you could do, really. But here we are anyway.
Yeah.
So how
hopefully it's better.
Had you been to? Yeah, it depends what bit you look at, I guess.
Agreed.
Had you been to like any contests at this point? Like, what contests do you remember going to? Like, how did the connection happen between like Raleigh and yourself? I'm guessing you must have been to some events.
No, well, it came from the Hillenden track. It was I hadn't been to any contests. Like I didn't go to any of that stuff back then. Like I was focused, like, or not focused, but like the track was where I rode all the time, and that was where I knew most people. And because of that, that was kind of where Darren Wood. I rode with him quite a bit, you know, him and like Lee Alexander, Dean Ideals, a guy I really looked up to, a guy David Haynes. To me, he was a BMX action test rider. He was one of my favorite riders ever. He was so stylish. But Darren, his dad had become the the Raleigh team manager. Sorry. So my connection was through Darren, and I guess Darren had come because even though Darren was a racer, he would come over to our quarter pipe and he would ride with us, and we just rode together in general, here and there, especially at the track. And then, you know, Sam, his dad, was the Raleigh TM, so once he saw me ride, Darren's like, oh, you should hook this kid up, you know, and that was how that came to be.
So he saw you ride the quarter pipe and the track then, I guess, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it was just an all-round, again, jumping and, yeah.
What was that, 85 or 84?
It was 84, I think. Yeah, I can't do
early,
dates. I'm terrible dates. But it was the forming of the Raleigh team. It was like right when I think Andy Ruffle had got, like, when Andy had got on, I think. There was Craig Schofield. There was a girl racer, I can't remember her name, but they were just forming the freestyle side of it because they planned on doing balls and demos and stuff, so they needed like a tour team. So, I mean, I think like Mike Pardon and those guys had been on before me. Maybe it was after me. I can't remember. Right. But then I'm not sure if those guys were touring as much, and I'm not sure how well they could ride quarters. But I remember Sam, like, he, specifically wanting guys that could do well on a quarter.
Okay.
Because they built a good trail quarter pipe, and
If I remember it rightly, it went into another level, didn't it? There was the Raleigh team that, like you say, Mike Pardon was on. And there was them racing guys like Craig Schofield, and maybe it was Karen Murphy. Possibly was the girl. And then
Karen Murphy was the one. Yeah.
It hit another level, didn't it? There was which I guess is Sam Wood being TM, right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of like
I agree.
Then it had a team.
It leveled up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
which,
with,
like
with
say,
the high profile. Yeah, with Andy's profile and how well he was doing, we got went to that next level.
Yeah. Did you go to the first hole shot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was riding for them quite. For me, overwhelming. Like, because I was kind of shy. I wasn't like. I mean, I knew a lot of the guys, but it was overwhelming for me. The first one was actually. I know you made a note of this about the prototype Raleigh freestyle frame. I actually got that bike stolen at hole shot, the first hole shot.
Oh, really?
I'd left it by a door. Yeah, I left it by a door and it got ripped off. And I was fucking gutted. I was gutted. I was like stressing because I thought they'd be mad at me or whatever. And I kind of quit riding for a little bit after that, like for about 8 months, a year maybe. Okay. But yeah. So I don't know if I did any good at that contest because again the ramps were weird to me, and you're competing against guys who just are kind of at that time seasoned veterans like Stephen Laidlaw and like Craig and Neil and Pepe and all those guys. They're just fucking on another level, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they killed it. I mean, they knew how to put like a run together, you know, like, and I'm just out there winging it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I didn't go to the first one. It always looks. I'd like to see video footage of it. It always looks like eventful. It wasn't really whole shot then either. Remember, it was British champs or something, like freestyle championships or something.
Yeah.
So,
but I remember Andy getting in. You know, obviously Andy was smart with promoting shit, and so having a whole shot was good for him.
Yeah. The events got well. I'd say they must have got better from that one. Can you remember who?
Yeah.
What the Raleigh freestyle bike? Like, who designed that? Did they just do that themselves?
I have no idea. It was like essentially like, hey, can you ride this? Can you test it out? It was a one-off. I don't know if it was made in England. I don't know if it was made overseas. But yeah, it was a one-off, and I never saw anything before it, or I never saw anything after it. So it was a single top tube. It wasn't a platform or nothing. It was just a little bit different geometry. It just you know, race bikes that we rode with the Raleigh.
Team,
fucking
called, wasn't it?
Pro burner team, and it was a race frame.
Yeah.
It was aerodynamic. It was kind of choppered. It was geometry. It was all over the place. But you kind of just rode what we didn't know any different, you know. So we just rode it. But so when the freestyle frame came along, it was like it felt a little more comfortable because the geometry had been a little more refined. It wasn't great, but it was refined.
Yeah. And so then you're on Raleigh with. And they add to the team, right?
Yeah. Well, they needed another rider, so I suggested Lunny, Jason Lunn.
Okay. How did you know him?
He and I toured for a bit.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, he raced a little bit, but his little brother Nathan raced a lot. His little brother used to race for Talker. Somewhere down the line, I hung out at Jason's house, and he had a quarter pipe in the driveway, and I'd seen him elsewhere, somewhere like with Tony McKenzie and Damon Nichols and those guys. Maybe those guys used to hang out a lot, and I'd seen him ride, and I was like, I just thought he was young, he was pushing it, and I thought he would be a good addition. He was someone I got along with, you know.
All right. Yeah, I think they were the Ashted Rocksteady crew or something, were they? They had the magazine feature. And it was the quarter pipe was at the front of the house.
Yeah,
I remember the feature. It was amazing.
Yeah, right in front of the house. Yeah.
That was cool, man. And then like Damon Nichols got added at some point, or are we jumping forward a bit there?
That's what was the timeline you're going forward, but it was, again, I don't know dates, but Damon was added after I was done. Because essentially after the whole shot thing, when my bike got stolen, I was out. Like I was like, Raleigh for me was new and exciting, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I might. Like being on the road and having to do road trips, and like we would go all around England and go to Ireland and stuff. I remember going to Northern Ireland during a pretty bad time, and we did shows at a rally shop, and kids are throwing stones at us. And it was me and Andy and Jason. Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. Like Andy was super pro, and like it was always autograph sessions with him because he was, Andy Ruffle.
Yeah.
And me and Jason would just hang out, and then we'd do the demos, and because Andy was really good at lip tricks, and but Jason and I were mainly the ones that rode the quarter pipe.
Okay.
And did flatland shit as well, because flatland, and we had to do all that stuff back in the day. Yeah.
So you did do shows and demos and stuff. I didn't realize. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. We did a lot of demos. It was cool. There's some I see photos today. I see photos then. I can't remember. Say again.
Was you at work at this point, or did you just used to do that full time? Like what?
Well, after I left school, I went on a YTS, the the youth training scheme.
Okay.
So I got a job just because I always thought I'd need a job, and that was I never thought bike riding would be anything. But the guys I work for, I'm jumping forward now, but this is 86. But because I was in Oxford at this point, because we'd moved to Oxford in 86, because I remember getting there and only having a few months left of school, which I was pissed off about. But then I did okay. But then as soon as I got done with school, then I got a job right away on the YTS.
All right.
And it was painting cars. But the guy I worked for, he was really cool. He'd always let me take off and go do shows, or if later on there was contests, he always let me go. And sometimes I'd come back hurt, but for the most part, he was cool with me just taking off whenever I needed to.
All right, nice, man. What I wasn't sure about the rally thing. Like, I assumed that when it all crumbled is when you went, but you obviously left before that. Interesting.
Yeah. It's stuck. I mean, I think and I could be wrong, but I think it probably essentially crumbled after Andy was done with them.
Yeah,
because he was the main man. He was the main man.
So in '86, I used to see those guys. They used to come to Chingford a lot, and a couple of them was still on rallies when I first started going, and I think like halfway through that year they was all off of rallies. That must have been the year it was finished.
I think I don't think it lasted long for them. Like the period of time for me, it seemed like it lasted long, but it was probably quite a short period of time by today's standards, riding for somebody.
Yeah.
But when you back then, when you see magazines or whatever, because it took so long for magazines to come out, it seemed like people were riding for brands for so long, but they really weren't.
Yeah.
It was kind of disposable.
Yeah. Yeah. You think your lifetime frame's different when you're 15 as well, isn't it? So.
Yeah, and when you're 15, it's like you days would last forever when you were 15. Like
exactly. Yeah,
it didn't get dark until it. But now it's like days flash by because you're old as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it because you was young as fuck?
Yeah, I was probably bit of both.
And like, what's the development of your riding once you quit rally? Like, was riding for rally? Was that like? Did you ever have like a conscience about like, oh, I wonder what like other people think about this, or did people like ever sort of say, oh, rally kind of sucks, or was there any of that back then, or didn't really happen?
I do remember because it had the stigma, the burners. Everyone thought the bikes were shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do remember having that. Like, and the prestigious brands were like Skyway and all that, like Kuahara and Talker and that, and Raleigh, even because it was if anything was American, it was considered better.
Yeah, of course.
But, I remember having the stigma of it being like a shit brand. But I mean, the bikes. I mean, I didn't ever break one. I mean,
yeah. No, well, the bikes you were riding were okay, but it was the bad completes they sold were terrible. Yeah, but I just wondered if that translated or people just didn't give a shit. And what's the pattern of going? Like, say you moved to Oxford, but you still coming back to London to ride meanwhile, right?
Yeah, so I think the because of going to whole shot and because of riding for Raleigh, I got a lot of friends and connections, and the scene was like a little more of a street scene was kind of popping up, and I became good friends with Andy Brown, and I would go down to London on weekends, and we would go central London, go around South Bank. We'd hang out there a lot. And I think Paddington Station was our meeting point always. So I would come into London, we'd meet at Paddington, and we would just take off and go do whatever we were going to do, like pedal around. And like there was sometimes the guys would go busking at was it Piccadilly Circus or whatever it was, and make a little bit of money, and we'd pedal around. And I mean, I guess what you consider street riding, jumping curbs and stuff, but it was always some of those were some of the best times, you know.
Yeah, totally. Did you guys ever ride? Meanwhile, the skate park and that, and the Camden skate parks.
Meanwhile, I did the original Meanwhile, like when I was riding for Raleigh, we went there, me and Darren Wood and Sam and I think Jason Lunn. We went there a couple of times. And then when Meanwhile 2 showed up with the kind of mini ramp thing, we went there as well. The quarter pipe wasn't there yet.
Okay.
But, so I went there, but then I'd moved away. So going to the contests and being around everybody and like doing stuff with Raleigh is how I got to meet like Craig and Neil and Carlo and Paul Hudson and all the Vincent guys. And it was once like you're in the clique now because you ride for a team, right? Because we were for Raleigh, we were co-sponsored by Skyway. So a lot of times we'd have to go and do stuff that the Skyway guys were doing. We would get like, I say roped in, but we would do demos with them.
Okay.
Some of those demos are pretty crazy with Neil and Craig and Carlo and that.
Yeah. Well, did you go to the one at the Slough Worlds?
No.
Okay. Well,
no.
was it you who did the Kellogg's one in Birmingham, I think?
Yeah, Central Birmingham. That was pretty cool because all the
River and that.
Gary Ellis, and yeah. So that was another thing that Sam Wood set up, and we took the Raleigh quarter pipe in there, and we did demos in Central Birmingham. We had like a little high air contest thing. It was we had Gary Ellis stood on top of the quarter pipe, and me, Lunny, and Blyther and Ron were seeing if we could get over Gary Ellis. It was pretty fun.
Oh, okay.
Because he's like 6'3". He's like 6'3". Yeah, he's like 6'3".
Oh.
So
nice.
Yeah.
Was you at the going back a bit at that Docklands thing they did? That had the Raleigh quarter, right? The promo Kellogg's, I think.
I was there, and it was. I did that. I don't have many memories of it. I remember, for whatever reason, it was a hard time. Like security was hard. They wouldn't let me in for some reason. Obviously, we don't have cell phones, so we can't get hold of anybody. I had to wait for somebody to come to the gate to realize that I was there. But we got in there and we did those demos. That was fun. I think it was with Vincent guys, and who else? I can't remember.
It looked like there was loads of people there. We were quite fascinated about that. There's like occasionally a picture will pop up of just like of that area and people riding flat or something. But it looked cool.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see those. I'd like to see those photos.
Yeah. Yes, I know there's one with Canning, like doing some flat land in it somewhere online. Yeah, I might have even saved it somewhere. But yeah, that's quite a mysterious.
Again, Canning was another one that we would meet up with in London and that.
Meanwhile,
there was a whole crew. We had we had our crew that would go to Meanwhile, and then there was like the Croydon Jam. We would go to that Croydon ramp sometimes. The one in the barn. We would go there.
Crawley. Crawley. Yeah.
Crawley.
Yeah. That's when like half pipe riding started coming about.
Yeah, I remember I was with Paul Gerlach. He rode for Skyway for a bit, and we were driving there, and he was driving his dad's MGB. He just got it fully restored, and we fucking crashed it.
Oh, no way.
On the M25. Yeah. Like we ended up doing like a 180 and hitting the barrier and sliding down the barrier, and I can remember him bawling because he's like, I just fucking crashed my dad's car.
Shit.
Yeah.
What happened?
I think there was like a little convoy of people that we were with. I think they saw it happen and they came back and picked me up, but left Paul with his car until like a tow truck would come and pick him up.
Oh man!
But none of us, we didn't get hurt.
Okay.
He said his dad was pretty cool about it, but I don't know. He just fucking ruined his dad's prized possession.
Yeah. I knew Paul Gerlach. Yeah, I quite liked him. I thought he was pretty cool. Yeah. Him and Paul Zach. Remember Paul Zach as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Them two used to hang out together, didn't they? So then, like in '86, did you go to the whole shot with Dennis McCoy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was like
I think I did one. I think I did one, missed one, and then came back for the next one. I think the third one is that one McCoy came to. Or was that second one? I can't remember.
That was the third. Wilkerson was the second.
Yeah. Maybe
that was like
one. I can't remember.
That was. I remember like this point in time is when a lot of things were changing within BMX. It was kind of like fully on the decline now, like in '86, like the winter of '86.
Yeah.
Probably before that, but like there's a lot of like street riding and like the styles changing and like the imagery's changing in action bike. And what did you make of all that stuff when it was going on? And what did you make of it now, looking back?
Well, for me, it was a little more like that. Felt more like what I was into. Like I remember like the whole Raleigh thing, having to wear uniforms, and that was kind of weird to me. It's funny because Jason Lunn and I discussed this like recently about how lame those uniforms were. But so being able to wear the more street style like vibe was definitely more. You know, it was a little more relaxed. It was not as strict. It was like not as structured. So I think. For me, it appealed to me a lot more. Just being able to go out your door and, you know, wear whatever you wanted to. It wasn't that style of riding too. Just ride whatever was more because that's what I grew up doing, was just riding everything, just jumps and quarter pipes. And street. Yeah. I mean, even before it was called street, we were doing street stuff, you know?
Yeah, of course. The first thing most people did was jump downstairs, wasn't it? Like when they got a BMX. So it was quite flamboyant when you look at it now. Like, although I think it was great. Like I prefer looking at it now than what I did when I was quite young. Then I was like, oh, what's this? Like, what's going on here? I couldn't really figure it out. But looking back at it now, it looks fucking great. Yeah.
I mean, I do remember like, a lot of people trying really hard. People were trying a little too hard sometimes to be too different, and that kind of was, you know. So that was weird to me, but
yeah, I think like what we were saying earlier, you get like the balance though, then, didn't you? That's just a bit too far. Like this is even. This looks kind of practical, you know.
Yeah. You have to like get right to the edge and then like reel it back in a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It finds its way.
And like so after that sort of year, I take it that this is when you're coming down to ride Meanwhile quarters. You stand at Andy's house. You're like, you've made a sort of, I guess, made newer contacts now, right? It's Lee, Greg, like it's a kind of a different little scene going on there. And that was how often did you used to come down and ride Meanwhile, like every weekend, or?
I mean, during the summertime, it would be like every weekend or every other weekend. And a lot of times it was, if there was like I say, we would meet at Paddington Station. If there was a contest going on, we would jump on the train and, you know, go to wherever. I can't even think of anywhere, but, you know, you jump on the train and go to Cardiff or Carlisle or somewhere like, or Wales or whatever. Yeah. But made a lot of good connections. Like, and those became like the core riding group that I would hang out with when I had to move to Oxford. It was a little bit different for me, but
And when you moved to Oxford, was there like places to ride when you got there as well?
Nope. Not when I first got there. It was
okay.
No, there was some woods across the street, and it looked like somebody had tried to build some jumps, but they were like mounds. So I kind of built them up a little bit. So I had some jumps in the woods across the street to keep me occupied. And then eventually my dad helped me build a quarter pipe in the garden. because we had like a nice long back garden.
Oh,
He says you can have the spot at the back of the bottom of the garden. So I built a quarter pipe there.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
So you had somewhere to ride. Did you have people to ride with, or?
Not initially, but then eventually, like, you know, I met up with the Oxford crew, like Alex Leach and Ian Osborne and those guys, and we would end up hanging out. And I would go in, because I lived in a little village outside of Oxford called North Lee. It's near Whitney.
Okay.
Seriously, population of like 300 or something.
All right.
So once I met Alex, and that, it kind of opened a door for a lot of, you know, because there was good street in Oxford. So we would go and ride in Oxford, and that was always a good time. Always getting some kind of trouble, like house parties or whatever. It was a good time.
Oh, nice.
By this time, I'd already left school, so I had a car, and I could travel now.
Oh, you're free to go anywhere, yeah. So, did you used to go to Mons, or was Mons kind of over by that point in time?
Yeah. No, we would go to Mons. Yeah.
Okay.
When it was initially just the original half pipe, and even when he had that half pipe spine.
I remember it.
Yeah. We were there. I was there for a couple of the smaller contests, and then when there was that big one, there was that big ruckus with them burning their BFA.
Yeah, the license.
I was there for that.
Oh, you was there for that, yeah?
Yeah, and that was
cool, man.
Yeah, and it was all because of Peter. It was all because of Peter Hawkins, really. They were just calling him names and stuff, and he got pissed off. And because I was co-sponsored by Skyway at the time, we had to, like, Craig and those guys and Neil left, so I had to leave with them because I was with them. I got stuck with them.
Oh, okay. Oh man, so you didn't actually stay around for the jam?
No, we were there for practice. And I'd been to contests there. I'd been there for jams before, so it was
okay. The one before, yeah.
And like rubbish. I remember having a hard time because at the time I was riding a coaster brake, so I always remember having a hard time with half pipes.
Yeah.
And then,
well, like you say,
I didn't do good.
People haven't figured out pumping.
Yeah, and with a coaster brake, it was, unless you're Todd Anderson, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're doomed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ride any of the half pipes down here, like in the London area? You guys used to come Chingford occasionally, right?
Yeah, I used to come to Chingford. I'd mainly ride the quarter pipe though.
Okay.
But we would go there. Lee and Greg and that would ride the half pipe, and like Andy and I would ride the quarter pipe because I think Andy had a coaster brake as well, and like the half pipe was a little difficult to ride if you had a coaster. But that was big half pipe as well. But Cannon would kill it all. Cannon would kill that fucking quarter pipe. It was insane.
Yeah,
he was so good.
So that quarter pipe was part of the old half pipe, the original half pipe. Yeah.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
Because then the new vert ramp was bigger, was a 10 foot tall or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
They built it,
yeah.
It was hard to ride. So that
was a good scene.
And you came down.
It was a good scene. It was a good scene there because it was a good mix of skaters and bike riders and like it was.
Yeah, it was cool lads. Yeah. And then you had like the pool as well, where people could do flatland and there was a bit of a flatland scene there as well. It was cool, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In the London, when we used to go down to London, we used to hang out with Phil Dolan and Lincoln Blacksley and.
That's right.
Those guys were those guys are amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nick Elkin.
They was Meanwhile locals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Meanwhile was good because for me, I could go in the winter because it was undercover.
Yep.
Like that's what I liked. And it was lit, so when it got dark, it was like you could still ride. That's why I liked it. And I remember I went a couple of times with those guys. Yeah, that was good, man.
Yeah, that place was crazy because I remember watching the progression of Andy ride there was insane. He went he was more of a flatlander, and it's what seemed like overnight. He went from going a couple of feet and a few feet maybe, to all of a sudden just blasting and doing the craziest like Indian airs and extended cans and he got good overnight. It was insane.
Yeah,
he would crash a lot, but he was good. He was really fucking good.
Yeah, I remember the pics. The pics were like, even like now. I'd like to see the rest of the pics from that day, but like them pics now, like that is one of the best spreads I think in the history of BMX magazines. You know, the no foot can they were all completely brand new tricks, and they were all like to the fullest. Like, it's so fucking good, man. Yeah,
couldn't
so
extend them anymore. Like, so
and just
good.
like raggedy bike. No helmet, like t-shirt, nothing, just carefree, risking it all. I love it, man. I think that's so good.
Yeah.
I
do remember Andy he crashed one time really hard and had to go to hospital. Fucking, hit his head pretty good.
I remember the stories.
He seems sane today. He seems sane today, but who knows?
Yeah. No, he seems good. Yeah. When I interviewed him, and we talk about that a little bit, 'cause that crash was like one of those legendary crashes that every sort of local scene heard about. Like, dude, it was a big deal.
I'd never seen anything like I'd never seen anything like that. Like, I remember like Lee and us with it, like there, and he was like freaking out, like convulsing and shit on the ground. And we're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, we don't know how to handle this. Like, this is new for us, right? Like, we hadn't seen anyone crash on that level. Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll get you, won't it? He'll get you when you don't expect it, man. And then then that kind of takes us up to like 87 when the infamous hole shot incident with a guy in disguise, right?
I don't think many people know about this, but for whatever reason, like, because the whole street riding thing, and like David Slade, like I became good friends with him. He and I clicked on a lot of levels, but I would go to his area and go ride. He would come down and ride London, and we would street ride or whatever. And we said this again. It goes back to the whole like not wearing uniforms anymore. It was like we were kind of a bit rebellious, so we came up with the stupid idea that he just dress up as me, ride my bike, and go out and do a routine. And like, he went out, and I mean, it's on video if you want to track it down, but it's pretty fucking funny. Like, he just made a mockery of the whole judged system of doing like compulsory tricks and all that stuff. And he's still these crazy, like, I mean, he's super imaginative. I like it. What he did was pretty imaginative.
Yeah, it was like an acting skit.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, I was actually, I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but I'm stood behind the judges, and they're judging me while he's out there dressed up as me.
All right. Yeah, I remember that.
Helmet, like, with goggles on, you couldn't.
That's it. You couldn't see him. Yeah, but I remember. I don't know how I knew it was your race gear. I knew that maybe the helmet, because your helmet was always like really like distinct, But I knew that it was him, and I knew it was your. Well, I knew it was yours because they called your name. But I remember watching it, and like, that was one of the highlights of that event. Really, he did like bike wrestling, didn't he? And like a cartoony kind of skit in the middle of a. But I don't think a lot of people realised what was going on.
No, they didn't. But that was.
But we'll get the video. We'll put it on because it's.
Yeah, I mean, neither of us were going to do that good at a contest, really. So it was like, let's just have some fun with it.
But when did you decide that? Like the day before, or that morning, or?
No, like, it was that day. It was like completely spur of the moment. Like, hey, just
impromptu.
Just fun, just whatever. Just put my gear on and go for it. He didn't even try riding my bike. He just went out there and he didn't even practice or nothing. Just went out there and did it.
Well, he kind of rolled out and then laid on the floor.
Yeah. It's just kids being kids, man. Like, we just do stupid shit, right? Like, but it was fun.
Yeah.
But to do it on that level, like a whole shot, which was, because it was considered a big contest, right? Like, at the time. So
it was the biggest one of the year, really. Yeah.
Crazy to do that. Yeah.
And that was the one where like the skating and that was the biggest one pretty much. So
that
It was I don't know if you saw it, but it was on YouTube for a few years, listed as Crazy Eric. Did you see that? Yeah. It was on one of them weird old school channels, and they listed it as someone totally different. Yeah, I think they changed it a few years after, but yeah, man.
That's funny.
We've got a Patreon page, so if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you.
And then, like, so in what's going on in '88? Like, BMX is completely like it's finished, right? Like, it's. Do you remember that year? It was just like only the few remained, like at that point in BMX history.
Well, I still think I remember going down and hanging out with Andy and those guys. There was a good couple of years there where we just those guys were still going strong. Whatever the London scene was, that was, we kept that going. But it was just the core handful. I don't think there was many events going on or contests or anything. But I don't really remember too much about it, to be honest with you. I remember I kept riding and I had my quarter pipe at home, and I would hang out with Alex and those guys and Ian in Oxford. Like, the street scene there was really good, so we would always go ride street in Oxford.
Okay.
And those guys were cool. They were always down to ride.
Yeah. I just remember that, like, '88 was BFA was still doing events and stuff. There was still events, but it was like noticeably not happening. I think a lot of people had grown up.
Yeah.
So a lot of people had they thought they'd grown up, but they'd got out of it. So a lot of people had taken up skating, and things were just changing fast. So, and was that the year that you?
I go for it.
Go on. Sorry. You carry on.
No, I think I was going to some of the BFA contests, because I remember. Yeah, I did pretty good overall for one of the years or two of the years, like in the top 10, I think.
All right.
But I don't remember what year it was. It might be '88. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember. I saw you ride I don't know if you remember it. There was a regional at, was it Catford or Brockley? It was like one of those. It was in the first one of the year, I think, in '87. And you rode that. Yeah, I rode that. I was like probably 13 plus or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
You rode that. Greg was there. All the Meanwhile guys were there. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was London,
Yeah, we'd always roll up together.
And in '88, was that the year that you moved to the US, or was it the year after?
No, '89. I moved to America in March of '89.
Okay. And what prompted that?
I'd been over here on holiday a handful of times because my sister, her husband at the time, was he got hired by a aerospace company. He was working he's an English guy, but he got an opportunity to come over here and work here. So she was married to him and brought the whole family. So I would come over on holiday and hang out there, like during summer holidays off of school. I would come for the whole 6 weeks.
No way.
After doing that for a few years, I'm like, this is where I want to be. It was perfect weather every day, and and
where was
the
it?
scene was not a place called Garden Grove. It's a few miles from Huntington Beach.
Okay.
But I knew from coming over here on holiday, I'd made friends with like Scott Freeman, who lived around the corner in Westminster. I'd seen Jess here and there because he would come over to Scotty Freeman, and we'd hang out a little bit. I wasn't super close with Jess when I came over, but as years have gone by, I've become closer friends with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just, it made it easy to come over because my sister was here and she kind of knew the ins and outs of everything, and just emigrating was a lot easier at the time.
And how old were you then? Like 19 or 20 or something?
Not 19. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. And how did you just moved your stuff out there knowing that you wasn't going to come back? Like, How did that work?
I got rid of everything. Got rid of my bike. Got just legally or
yeah.
I just came and never went back.
Because that was quite common.
I just got rid of all my shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not considered. What do you call it? You're not sneaking in because you're coming in legally. It's like what's called out of status. You're not like you come in legally through a flight or whatever, through like just a holiday visa or whatever it is. And I just stayed, and then as soon as I got here, I just overstayed. Yeah, and then my sister knew the ins and outs of everything, and she navigated me through all the system and everything, and then I just stayed and worked and paid taxes, and that was it.
Wow. Because I remember that was like there was a bunch of English guys that did that, right? But and there was a bunch of skateboarders that did that as well. And I remember at the time it was just like, oh, that's just a thing that you do. Yeah, you just get on a plane, fly there, and then you just don't come home. That was like just quite a normal thing for many English guys who are in a BMX or skate. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, all those Tony McKenzie, Craig, and they all did it. They just all stayed.
And so when did you meet the rest of the HB sort of crew, like the S&M Bikes guys and Keith and stuff like that?
Well, originally the first BMXer I met was Sean McKinney.
Okay.
There were some jumps down the street from my house there was some train tracks, and there was just a couple of tabletop jumps, and I was riding there one day and all these other kids showed up and kind of befriended Sean. He was an outgoing, nice person, and he kind of took me under his wing and just showed me around and introduced me to people. Mainly, obviously, because he was in a flatland, but we would also go to some concrete skate parks or whatever, and anybody ramps were few and far between then, like mini ramps or whatever, but I would go with him, and there was AFA, it was right at the end of the AFA contests. They weren't big anymore, but we would go to some of those, and I would meet people there, and it wasn't until early 90s that I met the S&M guys and that.
All right.
I lived with Chris Moeller for a while and John Paul, and that was a little bit later on, but yeah. But then, Keith was someone we met. There was this one fly-out jump at this school in Huntington called Oceanside, and there was we go there one day, and there's this kid just fucking going to the moon out of this jump, and it was Keith. So he didn't have a car, so I would just drive. Keith was pretty low budget, so he didn't have a car at the time, so we'd always hang out with him, and I'd drive him around, and we kind of became a crew,
Yeah. Yeah. And how did you get another bike? Do you have to buy a bike for a bike shop when you moved to the US if you left your bike here?
Well, Lee Reynolds was out here at the time, living at the Enchanted House, and I hit him up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can get you a deal on a bike through Harrow."
Okay.
So he contacted Trend Bicycle Source in Texas, and somehow a deal through them, through Harrow, they sent me a complete bike. So I had that bike. Yeah, that was my first bike here.
Oh, cool. Did you go to the Enchanted ramp?
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah. Pretty surreal going there. I remember Lee was out of town one time on doing tour or something, and I'm staying in Lee's room, and Lee shares a room with Joe Johnson, and I'm in this room with freaking Joe Johnson. I'm just nerding out, trying to keep my cool, but it was pretty crazy. And Chris Dorsey was there, and Joe Gratola, and Kevin Jones, and it was holy shit, you're in the mix. It was pretty nuts, man. Watching guys ride that ramp was pretty good. Watching Joe ride that ramp was pretty amazing. He was on Matt Hoffman level, He was pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, man. Did you go there when Andy and Mike Cannon was there?
Nah. No, I was back home in England when they came out here.
Oh, right.
I remember Cannon not liking it for some reason. It wasn't his cup of tea.
Yeah, I remember that story. Yeah,
I mean,
he had some issue with the AFA.
He's on that. Yeah, but he's on their level of riding. Like he was at the time. Yeah,
totally.
He was so good, man. So good.
Yeah.
That was one thing. Is like we always thought that Americans are here and we're kind of down here, but once you got around it and you saw guys like Canning ride, or Neil or Craig, or you're like, oh, these dudes, they're fucking as good, if not better than, because we had this delusional idea that everyone was better than us because we lived in this little island and America's bigger, everything's better, it's sunnier out there, everything's better, ramps are bigger, but it wasn't true. Like guys in England were pushing just as hard, if not harder, and progressing on insane levels. Like guys like Stephen Laidlaw, oh my God, like, dude.
I think that was in the early days. That might have been true because obviously they had it longer than us. But once you got to the mid '80s, it's definitely evened out. Yeah. And you say, certain people
totally.
definitely made that push.
And
then so you're in California. You've met a bunch of the riding scene there. How did that compare to the UK riding scene? Was it still sort of more thriving over there than it was what you'd left in the UK? Because in '89 it was kind of it was dust, but the US still looked like it was semi-active.
Pretty dead.
Okay.
Well, I think because everything's just bigger and spread out, it was still pretty dead. But you'd see guys here and there, but it was still kind of dead, but you had your circle of guys, so it always seemed like there was something going on, and you weren't willing to give it up yet. And eventually, when it did kick back off, and there was like Hoffman's contest or whatever, it started, picking up again. You had your circle, and it started growing out from there. But some of those contests were some of the best times because it was the most progressive. But it was kind of dead, but because you cared about something so much, you would keep doing it regardless whether it was dead or not.
Yeah, it didn't matter. It just made it more hardcore, didn't it? That's what it did to me. It just made it me like it more. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got your circle of friends, and you're pushing each other, and it was, I don't know. I felt like those were some of the most progressive times.
Yeah. Oh, what was it? Do you remember the British invasion article? Was that freestyling or Go? I can't remember what he was in. Go.
Yeah, I don't.
I think.
I don't remember.
Okay, they shot a bunch of English guys at one of the contests.
I remember I remember the article, but I don't remember much about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then then you kind of ride in street more, right? In this point in time, and you and Keith have that feature in invert.
Yeah,
that was
because there was some, I think one time there was an event going on at the Vans warehouse where they had a mini ramp and a flatland contest or something, and I met Brad McDonald, and he was just a kind of freelance photographer, and somehow I'm not sure if I connected him with the guys at Invert because I knew obviously Mark Noble and that, and he started shooting for them, but I started having a friendship with Brad, and because me and Keith were always around each other, it was an easy, because he lived pretty close to us, so we were easy subject matter to shoot photos with, Yeah, it was easy for him.
Yeah, that was a good feature, wasn't it? You got the cover doing the nose wheelie, right?
Yeah.
And that you had did you have
full
split
break,
interview in that?
It's not a real nose wheelie. It's
it was a real nose wheelie then. The sort of outfit was cool as well, the plaid shirt, I think it was, and shorts and just shin guards, That was like the look, wasn't it, at that point? And
yeah, I look back and it's pretty goofy now, but you know,
I love it. I think it's cool. Yeah, I like that look. And at the sort of, but this was almost like the next level of street riding. You know, it had gone through that early phase of like of that kind of foot planting on walls and stuff, and this was like the newer sort of stuff. What was some of the ideas that you got for doing those moves? Like,
there was a lot of things like the progression of pegs. Like before, all the pegs were flatland pegs. They were all real short, or whatever. So I think Keith and I, we had the idea of hammering PVC over the peg to make it a little bit longer, because it would then slide, like essentially what plastic pegs are today. But making them a little bit longer, Keith and I, we rode nonstop. Like there was a couple of summers where I didn't work, so it was just nonstop riding. And there was like a place called H Ramps. We would go and ride there, learning peg tricks and stuff like that. And then, we saw somebody do an ice pick somewhere, like an ice pick stall. As soon as we saw that, we learned toothpick stalls, doing a boobikas on stuff, and like just it was kind of endless, the stuff you could do now that you had like longer pegs. It made a big difference, and it helped progress, like learning to do all kinds of different grinds, obviously just feeble grinds and double pegs and Smith grinds, but you could grind anything now because you got these things that slide good. Instead of having like the knurled GT pegs, we put the PVC over the top of them. Or there was times where we would put pipe inside of the GT peg and put another GT peg and then cut the nut part off of it. So now we've got a super long peg,
Oh, you've got like 2-piece in there, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And like you guys were quite like early on the handrail scene as well, right? But you was ice picking now.
I mean, I guess like so there's different accounts of this, but it's funny. I saw Psycho a couple of weeks ago. I should have talked to him about this because we'd heard that people were doing handrails, Chris Day in particular, and he was riding a bash guard at the time. And he lived not too far from us, but Keith and I were like, how do you do a freaking hand? Like they say, do a handrail, but like how? Like how do you get down a handrail? Like it was a whole new realm. Like it wasn't getting on this like 2-inch wide piece of pipe was really scary. But we didn't know how to get like what was the procedure to do that. Like we knew we had to hop on it somehow, but do you go down on a bash guard? Do you go down on 2 pegs? Or so. In our mind, or in my mind at least, I was like, well, if you're going down a handrail, you're going to nosedive straight into the ground. So how does that work? Like you're going to eat shit right away, like not thinking you can pull up, right? So he and I were like, well, let's just try and go down on our back peg. And there was this swimming pool that we would always ride, because it was a baby pool, and then the big pool with transitions in it that we would carve, and you couldn't do airs because it was like so much vert, but it was fun to ride. And then there was these handrails into the little baby pool that we would iron up. We would gap over them and hop over them and hop into the pool and stall on the edge of the pool. And then we got the idea one day that we were going to try and do handrails, and the only way we thought that we could do it was go down on the back peg. So you take a bunch of runs at it, and you like try and kick out your peg and see if you can like just dink it, like
tap it.
Yeah. And then Keith actually, started getting on it, and he would, actually got the ice pick. And as soon as he did it, then I knew I could do it, because that's just how shit works. Once you see it's possible, you can. So then I started doing them. Keith did them first, and then at the time I had a regular job, like he comes over one day and he's missing all his front teeth. He's like, I caught the vertical on the ice pick and he fucking knocked his teeth out. So it freaked him out from doing it again. But then we started filming for the Ultimate Weekend, and that was where that footage came from, was because I did it because I hadn't eaten shit yet doing it. and Keith was freaked out from doing it. Or maybe he wasn't around that day, but I know that he smashed his teeth out trying it, and I know it freaked him out.
Oh,
but
wow.
so I was lucky enough to. I was lucky enough to get the footage of it, and that was before I ever saw, or we ever saw, any magazine coverage of Matt doing a double peg. And apparently Psycho had done an ice pick down a rail, but we hadn't seen that yet. So this is all just stuff that we kind of learned on our own. It may have happened before that, but we just don't know.
Yeah, I remember in 1990, it seemed like a race, like to go down a handrail. Like there were so many people with so many different ideas about how to go down it.
Yeah.
And I always thought that similar to what you were thinking, someone's going to slide down it on their sprocket because everyone did sprocket grinds. Like pegs weren't as used.
Yeah.
And I assumed that somebody would go down it on their sprocket. Yeah. But that was definitely the year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
that's funny what you're saying about like
Chris Day.
Yeah, I saw this. There's a sequence, isn't there, Chris Day?
Yeah.
And I think he's crashing.
We hadn't seen it, and we just thought, how the hell are you going to balance on that? Like, so the way we figured it out was like, as long as you keep your bike kind of horizontal and you slide down on the peg, you're going to land on two wheels on the ground, and it made the most sense to me.
Gravity.
So that was kind of that's what we went with. Yeah.
And what was it, how many times did you go filming for the Ultimate Weekend?
Man, maybe like 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
It was the concept for the video was really good. I mean, like, just a weekend of fun with your friends, essentially, right? Like,
yeah.
But it was filmed over a period of time. It wasn't just one weekend. We did a trip down to Tijuana. We did, we did. There's a bunch of fun stuff, man. It was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I remember when it came out, it was that was because you didn't get many videos out at that time, and I remember when that came out. That was in the UK, that was like the Ultimate Weekend, and one of my friends bought it and we watched it around his house. Yeah, and that was progressive, and it was like it was a whole new thing. But I heard that was going to be a Vision Streetwear video. Is that true?
I have no idea.
Okay, I don't know where.
Steve Emig, I think Steve Emig, who made the video, like, I'm not sure who he was working for at the time, but I know this was like a freelance project. It was just on his own. He wanted to do it. Okay.
Yeah, I think I heard that it was going to be a Vision Streetwear BMX vid, but then I think Vision pulled out of BMX, so it just got self-released. Yeah.
That could be true. You guys know more than me.
And then so what happens after the sort of street phase? Dirty Deeds. That was a few years after, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Ultimate Weekend kind of progressed into hanging out with S&M guys. Even like there's clips of Mole in I think the Ultimate Weekend as well. So we were hanging out with those guys, and that turned into S&M and then the POW house, and I lived around the corner from the POW house, so I would spend a lot of my time over there riding with Keith and Mike Griffin and BF and Todd and Luan Cunningham and like all those guys. It was I mean, the place was disgusting, but the scene there was amazing. And we had like a lot of, there was like Sheep Hills was going, Hidden Valley was going at some point there. There was some other the Magnolia Trails. It was quite a good scene.
There was stuff happening, Because I remember
it seemed like it was picking up again. It felt, or at least in our circles, it felt like it was picking up.
Yeah, definitely. Like what was? I think it was '94. Dirty Deeds came out, but I remember I don't think I hadn't seen anything of you until like Dirty Deeds. The first time before was the Ultimate Weekend, so like quite a lot of time elapsed. And I remember we watched it, and then there was like John Povah section. We were like, whoa, because none of us knew that you were still riding. And we was like, fuck, cool, man. Like this guy's still going. That was nice to see that.
with Peric, you never knew you were filming for something. It was just like go out riding and film. That was it. It wasn't like you're going to get a section in the video. It was like just everyone rode and he filmed, and that was like pretty rare at the time, to go filming with people. Yeah. But it was a little more. It was more relaxed. It wasn't like nowadays where people go out to film dedicated tricks. It was just kind of film anything and everything, and then like put it together.
Yeah. Oh, I quite like that style. Where was that stuff filmed? Like local mini ramps and vert ramps, and there's like jump in a car park or something, right? The jump box, because that's it. Flips had just cut. That was it. Flips hadn't long been going, and you did a flip in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was at the Vans headquarters in Orange, because I did for a lot of years. I was doing shows for Vans with Dan Hubbard.
All right,
but he had a box jump, so and like Dan's fucking awesome. So he was like, there was only a handful of people doing flips at the time, and there was a short period. Like I think the Wild Man and Dave Clymer learnt flips in the same week, and like a couple of weeks later, I learned it. So it was kind of still new at the time. So there was a lot of teams that wanted somebody who could do a flip. So when the Vans opportunity came along, I would obviously, because I could do flips. But yeah, so that was Dan Hubbard's ramp. Set it up in the Vans parking lot, and Peric and myself and Keith went out there and filmed.
Yeah, that was Dirty Deeds to me is like it's evolved again into something completely different. Like when I watched that, it was like that was the first time I think I'd seen like real trails, so to speak, like jumps in a row. I don't think I'd seen before that, and it was all like there was new tricks, new people, whole new ground level. It looked really up to date. Like that was a good release. Really. Yeah. Perfect timing, Well,
I mean, Peric is. I mean, he's a detriment to himself, but he's one of the most amazing talents there is. He's like, but he can't keep it together. Like he could be. I mean, productions that he's done on some of the videos he's done are fucking amazing. Like his vision for a video is next level. So I think like. Because of his talent, it made that video that much better. Like he knew how to, formulate a good video and capture the audience's attention rather than just being a bunch of riding like mixed together. And that's where earlier videos didn't have that necessarily. Yeah, it was actually sections and like.
I think that was one of the first videos that had parts, like maybe Backyard Video had parts before that, but it made it really good. Yeah. And he was fully immersed in that scene as well, so he obviously got the best out of it. So
and he's fucking amazing on a bike as well. So he knew what he was filming.
Yeah, man. And then like so after Dirty Deeds, what was you doing? Building ramps or something?
So my trade from school, when I did the YTS in the UK, my trade from school was restoring cars, painting cars,
Okay.
And when I got to the US, I did the same thing. I got a job right away working on cars. But at some point through riding and through going to events and contests and whatever, I met a rollerblader guy, my friend Ethan. He's actually from England. He lives around the corner from me now. But he was doing shows, and he's like, "Oh, I work for this company that builds ramps. They're looking for people." And I'm like, well, I sat there in my head. I'm doing the maths. I'm like, bikes, ramps, I'm in. And thinking, I'm going to be building and riding ramps constantly. It wasn't the case. It was you'd work your ass off and build these ramps and then leave. Yeah. It was hard work, but it was fun. I enjoy it. And
what were the ramps for, though? What were they actually for?
in the like the early to mid 90s, it was, you know, people wanted demo ramps, like whether it be wooden half pipe ramps or metal frame portable ramps, you know, demos or contests or whatever. It was still, I mean, there was still stuff going on, but it was just a little quieter before, you know, before the later booms of skate park building. But the rollerblader guy, my friend Ethan, he was in the whole rollerblade scene, and the guy that he was working for was a rollerblader, and he started his own company called Spawn Ranch, and so I started working for them and got to travel and do stuff. And then, like in the mid 90s, you know, we were the guys that built the first X game or Extreme games. We did that for the first handful of years. So we would go and to where build those. We would build the ramps in house at the warehouse, and then container them and ship them out to truck them out to wherever the contests were. Yeah, and then we'd fly out there and set it all up and stay for the event. And like for the first, I don't know, 20 X games, I was judging as well. So it was like I was kind of double dipping.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And that's how you ended up working at Schwinn, is it? Building the ramps? That had some sort of Schwinn connection?
Yeah, going to contests and meeting people, of course. And I already knew John Paul. He was working for Schwinn at the time. And then Jay, I was friends with Jay from contests, you know. So when Jay was initially doing all the team management stuff and like taking care of all the equipment, the vehicles, and booking hotels and this, that, and the other. But being a professional rider and trying to do that was a little too much at some point. So they needed somebody else. So that was when my name came to the table. And because John Paul knew me and Jay, you know, I was friends with Jay. And I think the bonus on my end was the fact that I could do backflips. And at the time, you know, there was still only a handful of people doing backflips. It was like a kind of a win-win. And I was, you know, Jay knew I was responsible. John Paul knew I was responsible because I had a regular job. I was, you know, I could show up on time and get shit done. So that's how that came to pass.
And what was the initial job there? Just doing the TM stuff and arranging the demos and stuff?
Someone else would book the demos, but I took care of all the equipment, the vehicles. I built a bunch of the first ramps for Schwinn. They had a half pipe initially that was built by somebody else, but then we got a quarter pipe, and then we needed box jumps and spines and stuff. So I built those, and I would book all the travel, hotels, deal with, because at the time Schwinn was American made, and so there was Schwinn dealerships all throughout the US. It was like I don't know, like Harley Davidson. It was like very American.
Yeah.
So you'd go in the shop and it was just all Schwinn. And Schwinn were really good because they understood that, like, we might not sell a lot of BMX bikes, but because of the extreme games and Jay's in that, he's one of the top guys, that being on TV is really good promotion. So, but now you can bring this thing that's pretty spectacular to a shop and show an audience. And you're not necessarily selling BMX bikes, but you're selling the Schwinn name. So you'd bring a lot more people to the dealership, and people buy like road bikes and beach cruisers and shit like that.
Yeah, it's just putting it out there, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, that was honestly, like, the Schwinn job was the guys we worked with, Jeff Schaefer, and like there was a bunch of guys. It was just a good crew of people. They all got it. It was the best times. And like, money wasn't the greatest, but it was the best job I ever had. Seriously, like,
nice.
Everyone was good to work with. It was the best times.
Yeah. How long did that last?
Yeah. 97 till 2001.
Oh, a little while, yeah.
Yeah, like 96, 97, I think. But it was they filed bankruptcy in 2001, and then got bought up by the same company that owned GT and Mongoose and shit, called Pacific Cycles, I think.
Oh, yeah, I remember, yeah.
So they got lumped in with them and then became like a mass market, cheap Taiwanese brand.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I think that's when they started coming to the UK, possibly, was at that point.
Yeah. It's business, right? It's business. You got to sell shit at some point.
Yeah. And that sort of in that era was when Miron did the double flip on the TV show.
Yeah.
You built a ramp for that, obviously. Was that specifically built for that?
I built it in. Yeah. He had done them before. He had been
okay.
Go for it. Yeah, so he had done them at Woodward on a. He built a specific lip for it on the resi, and he was getting them super consistent. So then, like, because I think Schwinn had like some kind of media guy that would like. He was always trying to find coverage for riders, or he was like what do you call it? I can't remember the name, but you know, he would get all these newspaper opportunities or TV opportunities, or TV stations would ask us to come out at 5 a.m. to fucking do a demo for the TV news or in Chicago or whatever. So at some point, this opportunity came up for this TV show, and so they asked Jay if, you know, obviously the guy who was working with Schwinn was like, oh, we have a guy that can do a double backflip on a bicycle. Nobody's ever done it before. So they jumped on it because the show was all about weird, crazy stuff. It was called Ordinary Extraordinary.
And what was can you remember the specs of the jump?
Yeah, it was a 9-foot radius lip, 12-foot deck, 6 feet tall. Yeah.
Okay.
It had it had a foot of foam across the deck and down the landing, but the plywood on it was 3/4 of an inch thick, and it really had no give. So I wouldn't really consider it a resi, even though there was foam under it. It wasn't like resi, you know, like on a resi jump now it gives, like if your tire hits it sinks in.
Yeah.
With a 3/4 ply, it distributed the load across the foam, so it just didn't give it all. I think it was a psychological thing for Jay, but it definitely didn't feel like a resi to ride, because I rode it and it was solid as shit.
Yeah, it didn't look like a resi either when he landed. It looked solid,
No, it's solid as hell. And the funny thing with Jay is he's ironically he's scared of heights. So the roll-in that I built was, I think it was like 16 feet tall, maybe 20 feet tall, and it was only 4 foot wide. And we had a scissor lift that I would take him up in it. He would get out and roll in and jump the jump. And every time we get in the scissor lift, I would shake the thing, and he would be like, "Oh, fucking stop, man! I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill," because he was scared of heights. It's pretty funny for what he does. Somebody who's scared of heights is pretty
it sounds ridiculous. Yeah. And what did he crashed the day before, right? What did he do to himself? Concuss himself or something, I assume.
Yeah, he knocked himself out pretty good. And everybody, because essentially they didn't need the studio for the show. They could have done everything else on location, but they essentially rented this sound stage, or whatever you want to call it, for this stunt, because he needed a lot of room, he needed lights, he needed a full setup and the bleachers, and they wanted to make a spectacle of it because it was kind of a big deal for the show. So he got he knocked himself out and was snoring for like quite a while. And they're like, producers are freaking out, the hosts of the shows are freaking out, like they're like, oh shit, like we're done, like this is not going to happen. And they're getting ready to cart him off into the ambulance. They might have even got him in the ambulance. I'm like, please wait a while, just calm down. He goes through this all the time. Even though like he barely just come out of being knocked out, he was kind of pretty aware of where he was at, because he'd been used to getting knocked out. Not that you should get used to getting knocked out, but he's been through it, so he knew what was going on. But it really took a lot for me to calm everybody down, to be like, look, let's give it some time. Just let's see how he feels tomorrow. And then the next day he was a little groggy, but he was still there. He still got it done. And he looped out on the first one, and like they were freaking out on that a little bit too, because they're like, well, that must be because he got knocked out. Like he must not be on his game. But then he got back up there, and sure enough, he did a bunch of jumps before, just regular single flips, and then he's like, okay, we're going to go now. I'm going to do it. And then he did that one, and he like just kind of let the bike get away from it. It was kind of on purpose, on the second flip, just because that was how Jay would do it. He would do one flip and then get off the pedals and let the bike just fly away from him and just slide out. Just kind of initially get that momentum of the second rotation. And then he's like, okay, we're going now. And then he went up and did what he did.
Wow.
And pretty much.
It was kind of overlooked.
Yeah, he's got
for
some
a long time, wasn't it?
That's one of the best. That was one of the best looking double flips ever. It's not all like sucked in. He's like, it extends on the second one. It looks so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Full power. Yeah. Well, how did he crash on the first one? Over rotate? The previous day?
I think it was like 1.5 kind of thing where he like, if I remember rightly, like where he just like landed on the back of his head kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, just didn't get off, and he was upside down. The bike, like he was upside down. The bike. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But like I think like Ron Bonner and that came out for that, and Dave Mavro, and there was because it was in Florida. It was I think Disney World or Universal.
Yeah.
I think Disney World on one of their lots, and we got to stay in these really nice apartments and stuff. They took good care of us, but all the Florida guys came out and hung out, and we had fun. It was a good time.
Oh, good, man. Nice. And then when if Schwinn finished in 2001, when did Etnies start?
2002.
Okay. And who was that?
So
who did you replace, or did you not replace anyone? Did they just find a position that needed filling?
No. Like Escamilla started it like in like 96 or 97. Like he started getting flow from Etnies, and it gradually progressed into something. So it was already going at that point. Mike, again, it's kind of the same as Jay's situation where Mike was a professional rider and it was a little too much for him to handle. So he's like, hey, can we bring somebody in? So they brought in Nate Hansen.
Okay.
For whatever reason, it did. Like with Nate, it didn't work out. So at some point, my name got brought to the table. I went and hung out with like Don Brown and this other guy, the skateboard team manager at the time, Mark Holder, and I guess I was a good fit because I'd already done the Schwinn thing. So they were like, "Well, if you can do that, you can do this."
And was it doing similar stuff to?
Yeah, like except no ramps, like no driving around. It was always flying everywhere, or we would do some little like tours where we would do shop stops.
Yeah.
But again, like
and
just
that
anything and everything, like helping with product, just getting product to people, setting up photo shoots, booking hotels, travel, all the paperwork bullshit that comes with having a job like that. Yeah. A lot of office stuff.
Was that pre Etnies video?
No, I came in at the end of Forward, like the last few months of Forward. But yeah, so I helped set up the premiere in New York for that, and
all right.
Yeah, but I was right at the end of that. Like,
okay, that was another good one, wasn't it?
The video was another parrot creation, man. Like,
yeah,
dude, like fucking dude's amazing. Dude's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember.
Did you have
like? Go for it.
Go on. Did you have input into any of the shoes?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Like you have to play. Initially, before there were any signature shoes, like it was just like, the guys was riding what was in the line, but the signature shoes, it was the riders had a lot of input compared to any other brand that might have been in BMX at the time. Like Rooftop and Joe and Taj, and then Ruben. They all had a lot of it. They worked hand in hand with the designers. They got exactly what they wanted pretty much. Later on, it gets expensive doing new outsoles for a new shoe, so you have to try and like diplomatically coerce some of the guys into a certain shoe or a certain model when it becomes a colorway or something, because they the company knows which shoes are going to sell the best. So if a rider picks like a shoe that's not that popular, like I would try and steer them away from that, make them understand like if you do this shoe, you're going to sell more, you're going to get more money.
Yeah. How often did people pick dodgy shoes?
I mean, initially they would pick dodgy shoes, but then we would like try and steer them in the right direction. And they, whether it worked out 100% of the time, it probably didn't. But for the shoes, guys have got specific likes. They like certain shoes, whether they're puffy shoes or skinny shoes or like everyone's got their likes and dislikes. But there is a business to it where we got to make sure we sell this shit. Otherwise, the time and effort and money that gets put into developing something is out the window. Yeah,
of course. But
it's got to work out.
How many people wanted to make like a Mike Vallely 1 cover shoe, so to speak, like because that was the huge BMX shoe at that point in time. Everyone had that shoe, and they all had it because the Etnies guys had it, and then the signature shoe kind of followed shortly after. And I was surprised it didn't just like 3 of them shoes didn't just look very similar to that, but they all look different.
Well, that was essentially what Ruben's shoe was. The Tyrannia.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Because
everyone liked the Vallely. So I don't think Ruben knows this, but he'll find out right now. But so we gave him a choice of soles, and we gave him 2 dodgy ones and the Vallely sole.
All right.
Knowing that he would pick the Vallely sole, but it gave it the appearance of like you have choice. But we were trying, that's how you steer some of these people. So Ruben's going to be mad at me now, but the shoe was essentially like it was supposed to be like a Vallely, which it did. And it was a good shoe, and
it did look like that.
It came with a little,
but that was the second wave.
It came with a little ankle guard that I don't think everyone was into, but it actually did work pretty well. But a little removable ankle guard that Ruben wanted.
I remember them, It was tail whip ankle guard sort of thing, wasn't it? That's what I thought it was anyway.
Yeah. I don't think it took off, but it was a good idea at the time.
Yeah. It probably worked for some people,
But I'll say that the Etnies gave those guys a lot more free reign on designs than any other brand I know of. Like, they got to do a lot of shit they wanted to do.
I was I'm just making a new zine, and I've done something on BMX shoes, and as I was like going through the certain brands and stuff, I realised how much Etnies had done for BMX, and it was like they leave everyone else, even like the big companies, in the dust, like with their BMX program and how long it run and how strong it was, and what like just generally what they did for them riders. So good, man. Man. It really is a standout brand for BMX. Like, obviously not so much now, but
it's definitely got a good legacy. I'm not sure what their direction is now, but it's the economy. Like when you got these, like Don Brown had a 9 Club thing the other day or a little while ago, talking about these bigger brands come in, and not including Vans because they've been it the whole time. But you got some of the bigger brands like Nike, and they come in and they throw a good chunk of money at it, and guys are getting paid a lot of money, but it fucks up the ecosystem of things because there's other brands that can't really afford that, or like whatever Nike was paying, like Dennis or whatever, it becomes the new standard. So anyone who comes in after that has to match that standard now, and that becomes a problem because then when a brand like that goes away, as they did, not only have they taken up market share of a brand that has been supporting BMX for a long time, but they've also now created this new higher paying, like they might invest, like, I don't want to quote Don on it, but like they're investing millions in putting on Nike contests and stuff. And there's no way a brand like Etnies could keep up with that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it ruins it. It's a false economy, isn't it? Like, and nobody benefits from that. Like, no one involved other than the one guy getting that instant boost of money, like, benefits anything. And really, in the long run, he doesn't. Yeah. I don't think most of them don't benefit either, because they just end up with no shoe sponsor because they think they should be earning a certain amount of money, and then like they could have had a shoe sponsor for like eight years, and they would have got something rather than zero. You know, like I really ain't down with that stuff either. And then when they're throwing all their money at them events they did and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm stoked for. I always stress about that when brands come in, like all these big bike brands, like, you know, like let's just use Trek or Specialized for example. Not to knock them, but they'll come in for a period of time and then bail, and like it just rocks the boat, you know. Like Nike, like I'm stoked that they, like, my friends got good paychecks for a period of time, but they're not in it anymore. Other than Nigel, he's doing amazing things, but they can stop doing it, and they're still like selling products, which is still fucking up. It's fucking up the system, you know. Like when BMX should be supporting BMX. Yeah,
and if you're only sponsoring one person, that's not doing anything for BMX, is it? I don't think. That's just you're sponsoring one guy.
No, like. I mean. Yeah, I mean, and to Nigel's defense, he's on another level. He's a celebrity.
Yeah,
he's not like, but he takes BMX with him everywhere. So I got no hate. I got no hate on it. Like he's
me either.
He's an anomaly.
He's a separate piece, I think, to the rest of like most of what the rest goes on. So, but
for sure.
And what else? Like, what else was going on at Etnies? Like, how long did you last there?
So I was there for 16 years.
Oh, wow. So a long time, yeah.
First time around. Amazing. Work with amazing people there. Like, but every couple of years we would get a new brand director, and I would have to keep justifying the program, which was kind of frustrating, rather than having someone consistent and them understanding what we were doing and the legacy we had. And actually just built on that. I'd have to it would go up, then drop off, and a new brand director would come in, then we'd have to build it all back up again. And as time went by, you know, again, like other brands are taking market share, so sales are not as good as they used to be. So budget gets cut. And then that trickles down to the riders, which riders don't want to hear that. Like, they don't want to hear they're getting pay cuts. But amazing people there, and we always made shit happen somehow, and it was, you know, again, an amazing time. Good people.
Yeah. That was. And then you had a good run there.
And then I was let go in 2018, and then beginning of COVID, they hired me back kind of on a limited basis. So I lasted another 2 years. So I was 16 years. Gone for 2 years, back for 2 years, and then they didn't re-sign me at the beginning of last year.
Oh, okay. And what was you doing when you went back? The same as what you were doing before?
More just trying to keep relationships with guys, like with Nathan and Devin Smiley and Dugan and Chase and that, like keeping the relationship going. I didn't have to really book anything. I didn't have to travel. It was more of a just keeping the relationships going between the riders and advising them on what to do with the BMX program. Yeah.
All right.
But again, it was, you know, sales weren't on the upswing, put it that way. So it was just it was always robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they
and in all honesty, they're a skate brand, so the skate's always going to take priority. So if there's something to be sacrificed, it's going to be one of the other programs, whether it be surf or BMX, or when they were doing moto, it was, they always got to make sure they take care of skate.
Yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah, I know that the shoes did go through like a low point about 10 years ago, I would say, from me looking at it personally.
Yeah.
And then they come back pretty good over the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the actual shoe models as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the models. Yeah. There was a period of time where it was just all colorways. There was, when Aaron Ross was at his height, his shoe was doing really well. Like there was a couple of years that his modeler shoe did really, really well. Much to the surprise of Etnies, because I mean Aaron had quite an influence. But then after that, I think it just went to like colorways of existing shoes, where it was just different colors, different materials. And that was kind of when it was like trying to steer riders in a direction to use a certain product, because we knew that it would sell better than like another not so desirable model. Yeah,
the barge, I remember, as everyone had that as a shoe at one point, didn't they? That must have been like 10 pro models or something.
Yeah. And the Jameson Volk as well. That was a really good shoe.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I like that shoe. And there's more recently, there's the Miron slip. That's a good shoe, and they do have good shoes.
The Windrow.
I mean, in all honesty, I still wear it. The Windrow, yeah. I mean, I'll wear it till the end of time, because they're the best fitting, most comfortable shoe for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, Ian's doing amazing over in Europe. I mean, Ian's doing a really good job in Europe, and they support him.
Yeah.
The system he has with the guys that he works with in Europe, they get it, they understand it, and I think that Europe accepts Etnies in BMX more so now than in the US.
Yeah. Over the last few years, they've definitely come back and had more of a stranglehold on the market than like a while back. So it's good to see, actually. And so after Etnies, what was the next step?
Go back to building ramps.
Went back to building ramps, yeah. Where
just on my own.
Woodward
So it was actually good timing. I mean, I wish the Etnies thing had continued, because I would have got been building ramps and making money doing Etnies. But so beginning of last year, we went up to Woodward West and did we did new skate light on the inside of the hangar. Is it the hangar? I don't know. And then there was a gymnastics area. Woodward got rid of gymnastics last year, so we built all new stuff in there and a bunch of parkour stuff, and with Aaron Bostrom. It's good. It's all smaller stuff. It's all like beginner stuff.
And you still do that now?
Woodward good. Well, I have a relationship with Steve Swope, and he works for Woodward. The company that owns Woodward is called Powder Corp. So I have a relationship with Steve. I think they're kind of on hold right now to build more stuff, but there's talk last year at least, there was talk of Woodward Australia and more Woodwards around the country.
Wow.
But I haven't heard anything more about that, so don't quote me on that. But but in recent times, I've been gone for like 18 months until about a month ago. Me and my friend Craig, we've been working on these bouldering gyms, like climbing gyms. It's been interesting. Like, they had people building it before, they didn't know what they were doing, but because we deal with weird, unusual shapes and bending plywood and on ramps and bowl corners, we're perfect for that,
Yeah. I think was Corrigan doing some of that as well at one point.
Yeah. I worked with him in Austin on it, and he came out to. We were in Seattle just recently, and he came out there and helped us on that. But they got a bunch more. They got a bunch more gyms coming up, so I'm going to be busy with that.
All right,
it's cool. We get to go to different cities. We get to ride. Like, I was in Austin for 5 months, and we got to hang out with Joe Rich and all the Empire guys and Brett Silver. Brett Silver's been working with us a bunch. He's a really good dude. it's all BMXers and skaters doing this, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds good, man. And so
ramp building is where skateboarders and BMXers go to die.
Obviously, you still ride, like, and what is the Old School BMX Reunion thing? What is that? How much is that to do with you? I don't know much about it, to be honest. So
it's an annual event. We've been doing it. We do it at Woodward West. Woodward's a good location because they have not only some of the best shit to ride, but also they have the hotels, you know, and they have like a bar and a banquet hall and stuff. So we can do everything in one location. So it makes sense. But so Steve Swope started it in the I don't remember, like 2007, 2008. And essentially it was just to get a bunch of old school BMXers together, like legends, like, you know, Volker and Fiola and Pete Augustin and Dominguez and Blyther and all those dudes. It was a weekend, come up there for free. We'll just have a get together, drink, have fun, ride bikes if you want to ride bikes, just talk shit if you want to talk shit, it's whatever. And then Steve obviously works for Woodward, so it kind of became a conflict of interest. And I was helping with him and my friend Xavier Mendez. We were helping him put these events on. And as time went by, Steve realized it was a bit of a conflict of interest, I feel. So he kind of was like, hey, you guys can take this, Xavier and I. So we just took over running the event. So it's been going, it's 16 years now. We've done 14 events. One got canceled because of COVID. Another one got canceled because of scheduling. But it's we just had the 14th one 2 weeks ago. Essentially now what we've created is, if you were an old school BMXer back in the day, like Fiolas, all those guys, they come up to camp. Yeah. They attend for free. And then if you were like a fan of BMX back then, and like you looked up to these guys, you can now come to the event and hang out with your heroes and just get a weekend of talking shit with them, sharing stories, riding bikes, having fun, go fishing. You know, the scenery up there is beautiful. It's 3 days of just, you know, everything BMX. It's cool. I don't think there's anything else like it where you can go and hang out with your heroes. It's pretty cool. Like this last one was actually pretty a good, you know, it was a good feel, good vibe. You know, a lot of guys they show up and they haven't ridden their bike for about a year, so they get up there and they get a shred boner and then they get fucking hurt the first day, and so we had a few of those. But for the most part, it's just fun times. Nobody's really, you know, it's just about good times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. How many people turn up for that?
Our cap is 330, because that's as much accommodation as they can take up there. Each year we honor people, like, so 1 year we honored obviously Bob Harrow. Not last year, but the year before, we honored the BMX Action Trick Team with Mike Buff and RL, so they came up there and we honored them. This past year, this last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, we honored like the Harrow team, Wilkerson, Blyther, and Nuri. Okay. And then we have an award. There's an award that we have that we have industry, like people that have contributed, like Steve Van Doren. We honored him this last one. Right. And then we have this one award that's kind of fun that Steve Swope came up with. It's called the Lori Laughlin Award, which is the woman from Rad, you know. Where we honor wives or girlfriends of a BMXer and all the shit they've had to put up over the years. You know, yeah, it's kind of fun. You know, it's just
what do they get?
It's supposed to be fun. It's a good time. Just they get honored. Like we give them like a trophy, like a participation trophy or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
yeah. It's just it's super fun. But you got to be 40 years or older. Originally, when it started, you had to be 43. But if you start doing the math, like you had to be 43, then the next year you'd have to be 44, then 45, then 46. At some point, everyone's going to be dead. So we've kind of started lowering the age a little bit so that more people can come.
Okay.
We kind of want to do a
Go on, sorry.
We kind of want to do a mid-school one as well, so that like, even though like a lot of guys like Taj and that are 50 now, but they're more mid-school riders, and that would be fun to do. Like get Frymouth and Mel Cody out and Lucky and all those dudes.
Yeah. Who's come through the event that you didn't think was going to come through the event?
Jose Yanez was one of them.
Did I see Gary Durant was there one year?
Gary was the last one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I saw him
awesome.
riding the mega ramp or something.
That guy shreds. Yeah, that guy shreds to this day. Like he fucking kills it, man. He's so good. He's so good. He's a stuntman in Vegas. He does the Globe of Death on a motorcycle.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I saw him recent. Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing. Gary. He's amazing. Such a good dude.
Cool, man. Do you ever hear from Diz Hicks?
We did for a minute, and then he went silent again. Same with Craig Grasso. Craig was coming around for a bit, and then he'll disappear, and then like he'll say he's coming to the Old School Reunion, but doesn't show up. We get a lot of that. We get a lot of people saying they're going to show up, but they don't. I was trying to get. I'm good friends with Steve McLeod. I was trying to get him there, but he didn't show up either. But there's like guys like Dale Perez. You remember the guy in Pipeline in the side hack? The guy riding the side. Yeah. So he was at the last one. He showed up a couple of weeks ago. It's cool seeing these people because you don't know what they're doing anymore, and they're still around and they still like look into being.
They've had a whole lifetime, like Steve McLeod. Yeah. That's a name that I'm not. I don't hear hardly at all. But I remember the videos of him like blasting Pipeline. He seemed to come and go like real quick. Like that was it. Like What does he do now?
I think he works for one of the cities near here. Like about 45 minutes. Yeah, he was back into it for a while. Like in the early 2000s, he had a house with a bunch of ramps. And then Rick Thorne ended up renting that house from him for a while. Okay. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Steve's a good dude. Yeah, I mean, but there's just I wish more of those guys would come out and experience the event because it's just a good time, man. Good, just reminiscing and talking shit and we take care of people. Like this last one, we got a bunch of custom Vans shoes made with Old School Reunion logos, and we make T-shirts, and we treat everyone real good. It's super cheap to attend. It gets expensive when you got to get hotels and stuff and flights, but like we don't charge much at all. Yeah. Oh, cool, man. Nice. All right. Well, I'm good. I'm good with that. If you're good with that, that was most insightful for me. Yeah. Thanks for doing it once again. You probably remember more shit than I do, to be honest with you.
Thanks for listening. We've got a Patreon page, so if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you.